Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to automatically generate flowcharts and diagrams from text prompts using OpenAI and Make. We are going to begin with a quick demo, and after the demo, I will explain the entire setup, and we are going to implement the Make scenario from scratch step by step. It is going to get a bit technical, but I will do my best to explain everything in as much detail as possible. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to open the Miro board here as always and quickly walk you through exactly what you're about to see in the demo. So what I have here to begin with is I have a form where I can submit the prompt for the diagram that I want to generate. And that prompt is going to be sent over to Make, which is further connected to several other things. But the outcome that we're expecting from Make is basically it will take the prompt, do its thing, generate the diagram, and then eventually that diagram or flowchart, whatever you are creating, is going to be stored in our Airtable base so that we have the link to the diagram and we have the actual file that we can use wherever we want. So that is the setup that I'm about to demo. Okay. And once after the demo, we will get into the details of exactly what is happening within Make. Perfect. So let's switch over to fill out, which is where I have my form. And I'm going to click on fill again here. Okay. So there we go. So here's the form. This is the diagram generator. And essentially it is asking me for three things. First thing is select the type of diagram. And the service that I'm using behind the scenes is called Mermaid, which we'll get into the details in a second, but it supports different types of diagrams. And for this particular demo, maybe we can just go with a pie chart. Direction doesn't make sense for a pie chart. If you had a sequence diagram or a flow chart, then you would select if you want the sequence to be top to down, bottom to top, left to or right to left, and stuff like that. But for us, for the pie chart, we will say basically what we need is create a pie chart indicating the revenue split for 2023 as follows. And we will give it exactly what we need. So we'll say source 1 is 45%, source 2 is 25%, so that brings us to 70%, and then source 3 is 30%. So I'm just telling it in text that I need a pie chart is basically for revenue split for 2023, and there are three sources of income split as follows. So as soon as I hit submit, the prompt is going to be sent over to Make. So what I'm going to do actually is I will open Make here just so we have it running. And once the flowchart comes up, I'm just going to hit run once so we can track in real time what's happening. So let's go back over here, click on submit, open Make, and make sure the prompt was received. Seems like it was. And now it's basically doing its thing. We'll talk about these details, as I said, in a second. But let's see the output first. Once the diagram is generated, it's uploaded to Airtable. So let's close this and open our Airtable base. And here seems like an entry just came in, and you can see I've been testing, but this is the one that I just gave it, 45%, 25%, and 30%. So this is the latest one. And let's click on the image here and check that out. We got our pie chart. It's not very visible here, the different sources. So maybe we can open it in high definition. I have the source link as well. Click on that, and there we go. And this is an SVG file, so it's much clearer. So revenue split for 2023, and as we provided, source 1, source 2, and source 3 has been listed here correctly. So this is pretty amazing. Like, we just gave it a text prompt, and we got a diagram with the file and everything on the other side in our Airtable base, and then we can use it as we want it. Perfect. Okay, so what exactly is going on? How is this magic happening? The best way to explain it is to go back to the Miro board and draw it all out. Perfect. So what I just showed you is that we entered a prompt, it went to Make, did its thing, and then finally placed the diagram in our Airtable base as we just saw. So let's now zoom in onto the Make aspect and see what all we need to make this happen. So let's just quickly type it all out. So first thing we need is we have a prompt that comes in, and that is coming from fill out, right? So that's easy. You create a form, add the prompt, and then that is sent over to Make. No problem. Then in Make, we need a way to convert. So let me just number these and create more space. Then in Make, we need a way to convert the prompt into a diagram, right? That's the whole point of this whole automation, that we should be able to convert the prompt into a diagram. How do we do this? How do we convert the prompt into a diagram? For that, we need a little help. And what we are going to use is something called Mermaid. So let me actually show that to you quickly. I have it open here. So in Mermaid, it's an online editor. It is a tool where you can type some very specific code in a very specific syntax supported by Mermaid. And what that does is it converts this text into this diagram that you see on the right. For example, I have this arrow going from laptop to festival. If I wanted to remove it, I will remove this last line and that arrow is gone. So it says A is festival, so that's our box here. It says get money, so we see this little text here. B is go shopping, so it's like a box with rounded corners and stuff like that. But let's say you wanted to draw a line from car to iPhone, so that is 3 to 2. And here we have, I think iPhone is E and car is F. So we'll say we need a line from F to E, and then it's going to draw a line from F to E, as we can see here. So basically it's updating in real time. As I type here, I get something different here. If I wanted to change festival to Christmas, it will update automatically. As soon as I'm done typing, I see the latest update here. I can zoom in here, I can explore the diagram, so on and so forth. Now this is good because at least we have this little utility that does exactly what we want to do, which is a text into diagram. But two problems here. First is that this text is not free text. This is a very specific language supported by Mermaid. It's a very specific, almost like code that you have to learn to write to be able to create this, right? And then the second thing is this diagram is only available in this window. If I want to use this diagram anywhere, I have to take a screenshot or download this as an image and then use wherever I want to use it. So two problems we are facing here. One is that we need to learn how to write this Mermaid specific code. And second is that the image is only available in this editor and we have to manually download it. But we are all about automating everything here. So we are going to figure out a way to use this service, which is free to use, and somehow implement it in Make to do all of this automatically. So let's go back to Maro. So we got this, convert the prompt into a diagram. And for this, what we can use is Mermaid. And Mermaid accepts an input, which is input is going to be code and output is the image. So this is exactly what we need. But what we can do is we can, before we call Mermaid, we can use OpenAI to convert our text into Mermaid code. The user can just type regular text as we saw in the demo, and this will convert our text, which is our prompt, into Mermaid code. So that will solve the first part of the problem, which is we don't have to type Mermaid code and we got the input figured out. OpenAI will give it to us. But now we need to talk about the second aspect, which is how do we convert this code and how do we send it into Mermaid so that we can get the image back. Mermaid does not have an API, so we need to figure out another way. And for that, I did some research and I found a service online which we can use to take Mermaid code and convert it into an image, almost like an API, but not quite. So let me show you how that works. So whenever you go into the Mermaid editor, and as you're typing this code, what's happening is this URL is updated in real time. This URL contains everything we need to create this image on the right. Because if I copy this entire thing, open a new tab and paste the same URL, we will start from that same diagram that we were just looking at because everything is contained in the URL. As you can see, we got the same diagram back in the new tab. Now, some smart people did some work and created a service which also allows us to get this image part. So we will not get the editor, not the other stuff. We can take this URL and convert it into an image. And for that, we have to use something called mermaid.inc. So this is mermaid.live, but what we need to do is we need to go to mermaid.inc, and this will all make sense in a second. And here it will tell you exactly what you need to do to convert your mermaid.live URL into a static image like this. And the way it works is in the URL, you will type mermaid.inc/ and this can be IMG or SVG. IMG will give you a PNG image and SVG will give you an SVG image. / you will paste the string that we copied from here, the last part of the URL, which says starts with this term Paco. And then we go back here, paste that string, hit enter, and voila, we got the diagram that we created in this editor. So if you remember, we had a line going from car to iPhone, and you can see here, now this is an image with the line going from car to iPhone. And now this is an image that you can download or do whatever you want to do with this image. You can save it. At this point, we are out of the Mermaid editor. We don't have to take the screenshot. So we go directly to the image. So we got an image URL, which is going to come in very handy. So let's go back to Maro and finish our setup. So we got OpenAI to convert text prompt into Mermaid code, and then we convert and we use Mermaid.inc to convert our Mermaid code into an image. So here we got the second part. So Mermaid code is the input and image is the output. So we're doing it in 2 steps. So for the input, we are using OpenAI to generate the code, and for the output, we are using Mermaid.inc to get the image. So it's happening in 2 parts. And then finally, what we can do once we have the code, the image, we can upload the image. We can upload the image to an image service and save it in Airtable. So this part, uploading it to an image service, is optional, but it's better to do it because then you get a static link, because Airtable links don't last. So you can upload it to an image service, which is where it's hosted forever, and then you can save that URL in Airtable to use at a later time. Okay, so that's all we need to know about the setup, and now we can actually go over to Make and start building this from scratch. And if it didn't make sense, don't worry. Once we go through Make, we will get another pass at the same thing in action. So hopefully things will start to make more sense than they do already. Very good. So let's go over to Make and let's clean up the browser a little bit. Let's close this. We don't need this either. We don't need this for now. And we will just go over to a new scenario. Very good. So the first thing we need is the fill out form. So we'll look for fill out. There we go. Select fill out. Watch for new responses, create a webhook, and I will add, say, diagram generator YT demo, and the form that I want to use is called diagram generator. Very good. So hit save. Okay, and then hit OK. And the next thing we need, so this is where we will get our response. So once we fill out this form over here, that response, as soon as I hit submit, is going to come into this scenario over here. Very good. So once we have our input coming from the user, from the form, what we can do is we can use OpenAI to send the input from the user and then ask OpenAI to convert it into the Mermaid code that we need. So we'll use the create a completion option. And in create a completion option, what we have to do is we have to select the model. So I'll select a GPT-4 Turbo Preview. And then in the advanced settings, I will change the output into a JSON. So by default it is text. I will change it to a JSON object, which is going to come in handy for the steps down the road. And then for the prompt, what I have is I have the prompt here in a Notion document, which I can share in the link below. So I'll copy the prompt, which I took some time to generate this because we need a very specific output from OpenAI for our image generation to work. And you can take a look at exactly what this is doing. I won't get into the details here. So let's go back to Make, and then in the message, in the prompt, we will say we want to use the assistant, and for the content, we will paste this entire code. And then in the code, we need to make a few changes. So for example, generate the Mermaid code for and this part is the type of the diagram. So it'll say for NERD or for a pie chart, and then the direction is coming from the direction answer. So let's select the direction. And then finally, there's one more thing we need to replace, which is the actual answer. So it automatically grabbed it, which is good. But basically, this one is saying the description should be coming in from describe the diagram question from our fill out form. Very good. Okay, so let's hit OK here. And then once we have this, so the output of this is going to be the encoded string that we need to send to mermaid.inc to create the diagram. So for that, what we'll do is we'll use an HTTP. We'll use an HTTP module, specifically the get a file option. So we click on get a file, and then here the URL we can grab from, let's see if I still have it open. I don't, but let's go to mermaid.inc, and I'm going to copy this part. There we go. And back to Make. So the URL is going to be to generate the image. All we need to do is give this, and then on the other side, we need to give it that encoded string. Right? So the encoded string, the way you encode it is you will use the space64 encoding option, and in that the input is going to be what we are getting back from OpenAI. So we enter that and hit OK. Very good. So I think we're in a good place to actually test it out a little bit, because the remaining part is pretty easy. It's basically sending the image to Cloudinary to upload it and then save it in Airtable. So let's go, and I'm going to turn this one off because it is also connected to the same form. And I'm going to turn this one on, run once, and now it's listening. So let's go over to fill out and just try what we get. So let's do a graph this time, and we'll say left, and we will say a diagram, we'll say an architecture diagram for a, let's say, a SaaS application. And we'll say there's a front end talks to an API talks to the database, and let's say front end also talks to API 2 talks to a payment service, to a payment microservice or something like that. Okay, that's good enough for now, just for our test. So hit submit, and we go here in make. So it seems like fill out response was accepted, and then ChatGPT did its thing. So let's explore the ChatGPT output actually. So we click on this. So you can see that it has this code in a very specific format. It has the graph because that's what we selected. We selected left, so it got that. And then it did its thing and created this Mermaid code that is then sent to mermaid.inc to generate the image. So on this, hopefully, we will have a URL where we can explore the image. So I'll click on download input bundles, and I'll copy this link because it's going to be pretty long. So there we go. And now what we can do is we can open this in a new tab and paste this URL. And we should be able to take a look at our image. There we go. Front end talks to API, API talks to database, and then front end talks to API 2 talks to a payment microservice. So I just wrote it in plain English, and it was able to convert that into an image. That is amazing. Of course, the better your description, the better your diagram is going to look. And of course, if you're familiar with how Mermaid works, then you can, experiment with it, and you will know exactly how to describe your diagram so you get a better output. But even if you don't know Mermaid, it's fine. OpenAI is doing the magic in the middle. Perfect. So it seems like everything is working as expected. So all we need to do now is we need to upload this image to, and I use Cloudinary, and you can use any image hosting service. So I'll take Cloudinary and click on that. So first thing we need to do is we need to upload a resource and answer some questions here. So I'll use my selection. File type is going to be a base64 encoded data, which is, it automatically detected it's coming from the HTTP module. And then the MIME type is going to be type/SVG. Actually, it's going to be PNG. And actually, let's use SVG, and I'll tell you why. And the resource type is image, upload preset. And these are my Cloudinary settings. Once you have your Cloudinary account, you will have some settings like this as well. And everything else can just be as is. And I'm going to go here. I'm going to change this from PNG to SVG. And there's a very specific reason for it, because I want to maintain the SVG URL because it has, it's higher definition, and I can zoom in and zoom out without distorting the resolution. And then finally, once you have the SVG, we'll use Cloudinary again, and we are going to transform it into a PNG. And these are optional steps. You don't really have to do them, but I'll show you just how you can convert SVG into a PNG. So first thing you will do is you will get the resource type. It should be over here. And then the resource ID is just going to be the public ID of the image. And then the type is going to be upload. And then finally, we will say convert it into a PNG, hit OK. And then this will give us the PNG URL for the same image we uploaded in the previous module. And then finally, in Airtable, we are going to select our Airtable base. And we'll say create a record. And I already have this Airtable Mermaid connection. So it's connected to my Mermaid diagrams base. And here, let's select the diagrams. And then I'm going to fill out a bunch of information. So type is coming all the way from my original question. So like the type of diagram. Direction is also coming all the way from our fill out form. Description also comes from the form. And I'm just maintaining these things so that if I have to reuse or edit my description, I can just start from Airtable instead of going all the way back to fill out. And then here is where we store the URL. So SVG is coming back from, actually, we don't have the SVG URL anywhere. So we have to recreate the URL here, which is fine. We can do that quickly. So we'll take this mermaid.inc /svg. There we go. So it'll be /svg. And I'll just create the same URL again, which is basically taking the encoded base64 string of the result that is coming back from OpenAI, which is this code string here. Then PNG is something that we will get from Cloudinary in the last step. That is a URL there. Image, we can also take the URL from Cloudinary, and file name can be empty. The code string is something that is coming back from OpenAI. So we're saving all this data here so we have all the record. And then finally code we can leave alone. That is something Airtable will take care of. And that's hit OK. Very good. So that is the entire setup. So we start with fill out form, goes to OpenAI, gets the image, uploads it to Cloudinary, gets the URL, and saves it in Airtable. So let's try it one more time. So let's click on, and actually let me save this. So we have the whole thing, and then run once, and then back to fill out, and fill it again one more time. And this time I will select let's say an ERD, and I'll say left to right and say create an ERD for a to-do list application. A to-do has status and assignee. To-do may or may not be attached to a project. Project can have dates and status. And finally, we can say that a user can be attached. I guess that's fine. We'll just do 2 or 3 tables for now. So let's go here, make sure this is running. Yeah, it is running. And hit submit. And let's see, it's going to OpenAI. And this part obviously takes a second because OpenAI is doing its thing. Okay, perfect. Got the image, it's getting uploaded, converted into PNG, and stored in Airtable. So let's go to Airtable and see. Okay, so that one just showed up. And let's see what the image looks like. Oh, there we go. We got a to-do, we got the assignee, we got the project. And if you want to look at it in higher definition, we can open the SVG URL. There we go. So we have the full image in high definition here as well. All in all, what we have is everything working correctly. And also what I have in Airtable is I have an automation that runs after an entry is created. And what that does is, because from OpenAI, we get something like this, because it's a very specific string we need to send to mermaid.inc. So we get this string from OpenAI, but then I have an Airtable automation that runs and cleans it up and converts it into proper Mermaid code, which I can then take, copy, go to Mermaid editor and paste it here. And I can see exactly the same diagram that we just saw. And we have the code associated with it also. So if I wanted to make any changes here, I can make it directly. So we have everything. We have the image, we have the code, we have the string, everything we need to work with these diagrams, everything working automatically end to end. And what you can also do in Make is, let's say you have another flow and you want to use this as part of that flow, you can connect it to a webhook, and then you can call this flow from the other flow and get the image URL back and then use it in the flow and continue down. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I hope you give it a try and I hope you found it useful. If you did, please don't forget to hit the buttons below. It really helps me out. And then finally, as I said, I will link this prompt in the description below so you can use it to try it out for yourself. Awesome. So I'll stop here for this one and I'll see you in the next video.